Hello dear students. In last part we have discussed about the structure of neuron and types of nervous system. Also we discuss about the reflex action and reflex arc. In this part we are going to discuss about brain, its parts and functions. Let's begin. During discussion we have already discussed about there are two types of neurons. First is motor neuron and second is sensory neuron. Now what is by motor neuron? The neuron which carries impulses from brain to spinal cord or to effector organs are called as a motor neuron, whereas sensory neurons are the neurons which carry information or impulses from sensory organs to central nervous system, that is towards spinal cord and then to brain. So these are two types of neurons. So try to understand. First neuron, that is motor neuron, which carry information from brain to different parts of the body, whereas sensory neurons are the neurons which carry information from different sensory organs to the brain. So these are the basically two different types of neurons. So here are types of nervous systems. There are three types of nervous systems. These are central nervous system, peripheral nervous system and autonomic or autonomous nervous system. Now what is the function of central nervous system, or what parts are involved in this process? Central nervous system consists of the brain and the spinal cord. The spinal cord which is running through the vertebral column. This is called as the spinal cord. So the brain is covered by cranium, a bony box. We have seen in 7th standard our brain is protected with the help of bony box called as a cranium, and the spinal cord is covered by vertebral column as it is running from vertebral column. If you try to understand, if you want to understand how this spinal cord is running through the vertebral column, you can just take example that you might have one mala, okay, like tulsi mala, or you might have one kind of necklace. In that necklace, what happens? There are some beads and one string is passing through these beads which connect all these beads, isn't it? So this string can be considered as a spinal cord, whereas these beads are considered as a vertebral column. So both are also surrounded by three membranes, that is spinal cord as well as brain is surrounded by three different types of membranes of the connective tissue called as a meninges. As far as peripheral nervous system is concerned, it included cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Cranial nerves and spinal nerves makes peripheral nervous system. There is a third type, that is autonomic or autonomous nervous system. Now this autonomous nervous system is meant for involuntary activities, the activities which are involuntarily happens, automatically happens. There is no control on these activities. These are called as involuntary activities, and these involuntary activities are mediated, controlled by autonomic or autonomous nervous system. So these are three different types of nervous system. Have you understood properly? Central nervous system, peripheral nervous system and autonomic or autonomous nervous system. From that central nervous system, let's go with. Here is the structure of brain. So brain consists of three parts: forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Most of the information is present in forebrain. Midbrain is mediator to take decision, and in hindbrain is responsible for involuntary actions. We are going to see one by one in detail, but before that, outermost durometer is present in the brain, middle arachnoid is present in the brain, and the innermost pyometer, that is the space between the membrane, is filled with fluid called cerebrospinal fluid that protect the brain from mechanical shock. The brain can be differentiated into three main regions: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Just now we have discussed about. Now, as far as forebrain is concerned, we will see about this posterior peripheral side and thalamus are shown. This side is called as a forebrain. Let us see in detail about forebrain. What are their functions? What are their parts? Where exactly it is located. Forebrain is located towards our forehead. So the location you might have understood, and from this figure also you can understand where exactly the forebrain is present. Okay. Let's discuss about different parts of the brain and their function. As I told you, there are different parts of the brain as forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Forebrain is much attended in our syllabus, so we are going to see about forebrain in detail. It consists of olfactory lobes, cerebrum, and diencephalon. Olfactory lobes, cerebrum, and diencephalon. Now, what is the function of olfactory lobes? These are a pair of small solid cube-shaped bodies. They are fully covered by cerebrum. They receive impulse of smell. So we have seen these are receptors for smell. They are called as olfactory receptors, which are present in our nose. So accordingly, that information will be passed to the brain, and the location, the segment, the part, the office where this smell is detected or the smell is stored is called as a olfactory lobe. Next part is cerebrum. It is the largest part of the brain. It consists of two cerebral hemispheres joined by a band of nerve fibers called corpus callosum. Surface of cerebral hemisphere is made up of gray matter called cerebral cortex. It becomes highly folded to increase area for accumulation of more neurons. The folds are called gyri and depressions between them. These are called sulci. These are called as sulci. You can pronounce it as a sulci. Deep and wide sulci are called fissures. Fissure is a segment. There is a curve between two hills, that is called as a fissure. Fissure divide each cerebral hemisphere into four lobes. So here in forebrain there are four lobes having different functions. First is occipital lobe. Region for visual perceptions. So what we see is recognized by this lobe, that is called as occipital lobe, visual perceptions. Next part is frontal lobe for muscular activities, running, doing work, picking up some heavy material. Whatever muscular activities we are doing, these all are done with the help of frontal lobe. These are coordinated by the frontal lobe. Third part is parietal lobe. Parietal means backside. For touch, smell, temperature, and conscious association. For this purpose, parietal lobe is responsible. And next is temporal lobe for auditory receptions. So these are different lobes present in the cerebral hemisphere and their functions. I repeat once again, occipital lobe is responsible for region, or this is a region where visual perceptions are responsible. Then frontal lobe for muscular activities, parietal lobe for touch, smell, temperature and conscious association, and temporal lobe is for auditory reception. In next slide, all these are given in detail. You can note down from this next slide. I am giving you little time to record it in your notebooks. During discussion, we have already discussed about there are two types of neurons. First is motor neuron and second is sensory neuron. Now what is by motor neuron? The neuron which carries impulses from brain to spinal cord or to effector organs are called as a motor neuron, whereas sensory neurons are the neurons which carry information or impulses from sensory organs to central nervous system, that is towards spinal cord and then to brain. So these are two types of neurons. So try to understand. First neuron, that is motor neuron, which carry information from brain to different parts of the body, whereas sensory neurons are the neurons which carry information from different sensory organs to the brain. So these are the basically two different types of neurons. Here in the midbrain, it consists of two heavy fibers called crura cerebri. This tract connect forebrain to the hindbrain. These are the centers for control of eye movement and hearing response. So here midbrain mainly it is having function to connect two parts, different other two parts of the brain, that is forebrain and hindbrain. And here at midbrain it is a mediator between decision making and received impulses. So midbrain also plays very important role in the decision making. That's why it is also having important location in the brain. Now let's discuss about hindbrain, parts of hindbrain and their function. Hindbrain consists of cerebellum. In forebrain it was a cerebrum. Here it is a cerebellum. Okay, cerebellum, pons variouli, medulla oblongata, spinal cord. These are the parts of hindbrain. Now what about these functions? Now what is meant by cerebellum? It is very large and well developed. It controls and coordination and adjustment of movement, that is equilibrium and posture. So our balance is due to this cerebellum. We can stand on one leg or on both the legs, or our postures are maintained in proper positions. All these are due to cerebellum. So when an alcoholic person, the person who is taking alcohol or drinking alcohol, so when they drink alcohol, that time they lost the control of cerebellum, and that's why they cannot maintain their posture or equilibrium of their body. And then while walking, you can observe them that they cannot maintain their posture, isn't it? So cerebellum is a part, it is a very large part of hindbrain, and it controls the posture, movement of our body. The next part is pons varolii. It lies above the medulla oblongata. It controls some aspects of respiration. So respiration, some aspects of respiration, not all, are controlled by pons varolii. Then third part is medulla oblongata, which is a very important part of hindbrain. It is posterior most part of the brain and continues into the spinal cord. It controls involuntary functions of the body such as heartbeat, rate of breathing, secretion of saliva, swallowing, coughing, sneezing, vomiting, etc. So all these involuntary actions or functions are controlled and coordinated by the medulla oblongata. We call it as a छोटा मगज, है ना, छोटा मेंदू, so छोटा बेजा. So हम बोलते हैं कि on head we should not hit from back side because medulla oblongata is present over there, and if it is get hurt due to tapping or something by hitting something heavy at back side of the head, what will happen? We will lost control on the involuntary actions like heartbeats अगर लॉस हो गए, what will happen? There will be death. Rate of breathing loss हो गया, what will be there? There will be death. Secretion of saliva, if it stops, swallowing, coughing, sneezing, vomiting, if it is stops, it is but obvious it will cause a death. So आदमी मर सकता है. That's why medulla oblongata is very important part of the brain, and we should not hit from back side of the head. Next part of hindbrain is spinal cord. It lies in the vertebral column. As I told you, there are some beads, and from that beads string is going. That string is nothing but the spinal cord, and these beads are nothing but the vertebral column. It starts from medulla oblongata and extends downward. It is also protected by three meanings. Meanings means layers. And cerebrospinal fluid. It also acts as a center for spinal reflexes. Spinal reflexes, we have seen reflex action, and the decision to remove our hand from the dangerous situation was taken at spinal cord. So this spinal reflexes response are coming from the spinal cord. So this was about hindbrain, its parts and their functions. Now next system, we have seen central nervous system. Now next is peripheral nervous system. Let us see what is there in peripheral nervous system. Now this peripheral nervous system, it consists of cranial nerves and spinal nerves. It mainly controls the voluntary activities, the activities which we wish to do. These activities are controlled by cranial nerves and spinal nerves, which are the parts of peripheral nervous system. Cranial nerve, also called as the cerebral nerves, arises from brain. There are 12 pairs of cranial nerves in man, and 31 pairs of spinal nerves arise from the spinal cord. So from brain there will be 12 cranial nerves which are coming and pass to the different parts of the body, whereas 31 pairs of spinal nerves arises from the spinal cord. स्पिनल कॉर्ड से बॉडी की डिफरेंट पार्ट्स की तरफ 31 pairs of spinal nerves are present. Okay, so very importantly, information collection and passing of the message will be done with the help of peripheral nervous system. Third system is autonomous or autonomic nervous system. This autonomic nervous system, it controls involuntary activities of internal organs such as to hear, blood vessels, glands and smooth muscles of alimentary canal and uterus. It is subdivided into sympathetic and parasympathetic system. Organs receive nerves from both sympathetic and parasympathetic nerve fibers. They have opposite effect on the organs if one is stimulatory and the other is inhibitory. So sympathetic and parasympathetic opposite. एक stimulate कर देगा, एक inhibit कर देगा. Suppose if we see sweet, stimulation क्या होगा? Saliva secretion will start. But parasympathetic nerve fibers will stop that. It will be inhibitory. So like that. So sympathetic and parasympathetic. Let us see examples. With the help of examples we can understand what is the difference between parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, which are the parts of autonomous or autonomic nervous system. Here is the chart which describe the sympathetic system and parasympathetic system on different organs. Suppose if it is a heart, sympathetic system increases heartbeats, whereas parasympathetic system it decreases heartbeats. Blood vessels constrict arteries and raises blood pressure. If required, blood pressure is need to be increased. Then constriction of arteries will be done by sympathetic system, nervous system. Whereas parasympathetic system, what it will do? Dilates arteries and lowers blood pressure. Bronchi dilates bronchi, making breathing easier by sympathetic sympathetic system, whereas parasympathetic system it will constrict the bronchi. Eye dilates pupil and parasympathetic constrict pupils. Gastric secretions, sympathetic system inhibit secretions, whereas parasympathetic stimulates secretions. Salivary glands inhibit secretion of saliva by sympathetic system, whereas parasympathetic stimulates the secretion of saliva by salivary glands. Urinary bladder relaxes urinary bladder by sympathetic system, and parasympathetic system it contracts urinary bladder. As far as liver is concerned, reduce bile secretion by sympathetic system, whereas parasympathetic system it promotes bile secretions. So these are the two opposite systems, two opposite effects on the organs by sympathetic and parasympathetic system of autonomous nervous system. So here today we have seen about different parts of the brain, their function and different types of nervous system. In next period we will go towards next part of the chapter. Thank you.